Okay,
Over to you.
perfect. Then, hey everyone, thanks for being here. So, I'm Finn from Adasight, and we're both from Adasight. And today we're going to be presenting to you about the 5 AI workflows to scale experimentation with Claude and Airtable. So, this is our host, Zain. He's the lead growth and experimentation at Adasight. So, he'll be presenting to you the system that we built that compounds learning into an experimentation engine. Next slide. So a little bit about Adasight, just as an initial reminder, we help growth and product teams turn data into revenue-driving decisions. We also specialize in analytics implementation, experimentation programs, and AI-assisted like workflows. We've done over, I think, 100 plus implementations, and we're a certified partner of Amplitude and Statsig as well. And if you're interested, we also have a free strategy session at the end or whenever anyone wants to demo a call with us based off of the system that Zane will be presenting. Zane, go ahead and take it away.
Awesome. So thank you, Finn, for the introductions. So guys, like we will keep this very conversational. And I have a package ready for you. It is like 17, 18 slides. But with that, we'll be also looking at the Airtable as well. Where Airtable access or database where everything happens. And then, like, if you have any questions or any point that needs clarity, feel free to interrupt me, raise your hands, or maybe type your question in the chat. Would love to answer that. Um, During this webinar, we will have some core takeaways. So we'll look at the 5 AI workflows that we use in our experimentation system. So we use this system with a lot of our clients that have an experimentation program with us. It's AI first. This is where we use Airtable, we use Claude, we use Fireflies, we use Slack as well, and a lot of other AI tools as well. But of course, like you can sort of replace the tools with your own tech stack. And I think the system still stays the same. So the purpose is to showcase how it can compound and how it can add as a or act as a feedback loop to your experimentation system. So the 5 workflows would be the prioritizer. This is where AI helps us prioritize different hypotheses. The hypothesis generated, this is going to be very, very informative for you guys as well. And also, this is where I'm going to spend a little bit more time to talk about how do we generate hypotheses. The results evaluator, I think this has been a pain point for a lot of clients that we work with. How do we interpret results and how we can use AI to interpret results, and how does like human intervention sort of come in for evaluating the results. One of the workflows that we also use is the meeting sync capture. So we work with clients. There are a lot of meetings happening. A lot of agendas are being discussed, and a lot of hypotheses are being discussed. A lot of nuances are coming in that are neither in your product analytics platform. They're not in Notion, not in your databases, not in your documents. But like you know it, right? From your past experiences as well, from your past experiments, and also how your platform performs. So this is where we have AI automations that help us capture that. The fifth one is variant design. This is something that has been a pain point for a lot of people. Currently, we are testing this, but like we'll talk about that in detail why it is not working as of now. But it is something that can plug in as a core AI workflow for your experimentation. We'll also talk about the compounding effect, and we'll talk about how different results sort of feedback to the loop, and then you have a perpetual sort of a loop going on where hypotheses are being generated and experiments are being ran, and then you're documenting everything. And then we're also going to talk about some of the prereqs, the tools that you're going to need in order to sort of run this particular experiment. So I just want to like have a quick recap. So why experimentation is important. This is something that I preach a lot when I'm like running experimentation programs. So there's this like saying in the experimentation world that your product roadmap is a set of mere opinions without experimentation. So it's evidence over opinion. The hippo effect is there. People are like employees or your colleagues in the highest offices, their opinion is probably prioritized the most, but eventually through experimentation, you can see whether it has some weight or not, and what do the results say. You also like de-risk your development with experimentation. You are then running different variants. You find out what sort of variants work for your user base, work for your platform, work for your industry, and you're not iterating in the wrong direction. 3 months, 6 months of focus in a certain direction, but eventually, without experimentation, you wouldn't know what worked, what did not work. With experimentation, in the first experiment, you would probably correct course. The learnings also compound. This is where documentation is going to be very, very important. You understand the nuances. Okay, we ran this experiment. This was the result. The user reviews showing them on the landing page. It might work for our users in the US, but might not work for our users in the UK. So this could be like something that comes out for experimentation. So you're learning like the compound over time. The iteration is also faster, as I said, like in the de-risking of development, that you would know what to iterate for and in which direction you need to iterate. So this is how I would say that experimentation is important for growth, and you can have a a very good growth engine based out of experimentation. So that's why we keep on preaching experimentation. We keep on suggesting clients and our partners to have experimentation as a very, very important pillar in their product development cycles, in their product management cycles. And why would we use Claude or like have these five workflows in? And why wouldn't the experiments compound in the like old world? I would say, where we would be generating hypotheses manually, prioritizing hypotheses manually, in meeting rooms or probably in remote meetings as well. So there are like three bottlenecks for that. So hypothesis generation, it's very extensive. It requires a lot of user research, but with now AI-based workflows, this is much faster, and AI amplifies that. You can generate a lot of hypotheses from a lot of resources very quickly. So normally, whenever we run or start our experimentation program with our clients, we are able to generate multiple hypotheses in a 2 weeks timeline. That essentially means that we're looking at session replays, we're looking at analytics. We're looking at UI UX audit. We're looking at customer reviews. We're looking at your business goals as well. And we are able to like generate 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 hypotheses in just like a couple of weeks. Prioritization has been a pain point. There have been a lot of like frameworks to prioritize stuff, ICE, PXL, and then you name them. Now with AI, the workflow that we use, it helps us remove subjectivity from it. Although like clients do prioritize using ICE or whatever framework that we're using with the clients, but AI sort of gives us a very good check, and it sort of prioritizes it independently, and then we can compare the scores together to see how subjective the prioritization is. And then Claude uses, in our case, its own rubrics, its own prioritization sort of process, but then the clients would be doing them based on their experience, based on like how they're seeing the business. So I think it's a very, very good data point to have whenever we are prioritizing hypotheses. But the most important thing, which does not result in compounding, is the results that are coming from your experiments. They do not feed back to new hypotheses structurally. So you would know, okay, like we did something on the landing page, this worked, but what does it mean in terms of the next experiment or the next hypothesis? Is it part of the Airtable now or not? How does this sort of correlate to the rest of the hypothesis that we have? Do we need to do another hypothesis first, or test it first and then look at it? Is it a parent hypothesis? Is this a child hypothesis? Or workflow sort of looks into that as well. It knows where the experiment is happening in terms of the like the product pages or the user experience. And then it looks at sort of the hypothesis, categorizes this the hypothesis in the form of child hypothesis, parent hypothesis, so that we have a decision tree. A lot of the times, what you have seen is that we are running an experiment, we found some results. Now the next iteration comes in, but we need to test something else first, so that we don't have like a lot of variants flying out there, and then we can then prioritize the hypothesis accordingly. So these five workflows that we use, and for like at the core of it, they help us compound experimentation, and we'll have like a list of 30, 35, 50 hypotheses. Currently, we have like around 30, 35 hypotheses with all the clients that we have. And based on these hypotheses, we have 4 to 5 experiments each hypothesis, like in the Airtables as well. So I have a sample Airtable for you guys, which we'll look at briefly, and then you'll see like how does it look like. So moving on to like this particular sort of a package or a slide. This is very like text heavy, but I like make it very simple for you guys. And I sort of this divide or experimentation program into three main phases. So the first phase here, the big block, is the planning and the setup phase. The second phase is the evaluation phase, and the third phase is documentation and reiteration. For you guys to like digest this better, so this is what we call as a system, that is the bare bones structure of our experimentation program, and the Claude and like AI workflows that we use, they're built on top of that. So this bare bones structure provides us the base system, and then we can use different workflows in order to automate these, in order to make these workflows efficient, reduce time, reduce manual work, make decisions much more informed and better. And each of these phase, the big blocks, they have like small stages, right? So planning and setup phase would have 3 stages. Evaluation phase is going to have 2 stages, and documentation and reiteration is also going to have 2 stages. And each stage is going to have a different AI workflow where it will run, and it will help us sort of either score a particular hypothesis, or maybe help us populate the results that we are seeing. So this is something that we're going to discuss that. And then I've like also put up the different tools that we use. I did not like put in the names of the tools that we use, but you can also use the tools that you currently have. Let me just like quickly talk about them fairly quickly. So we, as like Finn mentioned, we are a certified partner of Amplitude and Statsig. This is where we use Amplitude a lot, or like Amplitude in most of the cases, and now Statsig as well. And we use session replays inside Amplitude. We use customer reviews for customer feedbacks that are coming into Amplitude. We use Amplitude's AI features to look at product analytics, because a lot of the clients that we have helped them implement Amplitude as well. So we have a tracking plan with them. We are tracking their core workflows. We have different events implemented. So we know what the analytics look like. And we know their use cases, we know their KPIs. And that's why like it's very easy for them to sort of pull all of that into Claude, and then we can use that to generate hypotheses. We use Fireflies for a transcript, but you can use any other meeting note takers as well. And you'll see that in phase one, stage three, this is here. This is where like we would use these meeting transcripts as well. All of this then again feeds into Claude through the MCPs. For designs, we of course use Figma. I'm sure that would be the most popular one across the board. But whatever you have, if it can be connected to Claude, I think then that's great. Or it can be connected to like any other LLM, then that's great. You can use that as well. But yeah, Amplitude again stays at the core of it. We also use Slack. So Slack again is now becoming AI first as well. This is where a lot of bots are in Slack, and then we have connected Slack to MCP, through the MCP to Claude as well, and then a lot of messages are happening inside Claude, which go then to Slack, and then the teams are automatically made aware of like what's happening and what the results are looking like. So I'll just like talk about each of these phases, because I want to address this to begin with, so that when we go into each of the workflow, we know what we are trying to optimize for, and what is the sort of amplification we are looking for with AI. One thing to notice here is that AI or Claude, as of now, it does not really replace the what I would say human intervention, but it really helps us amplify the experimentation system and the process. So normally I would take 4 or 5 months to generate 100 hypotheses, but with Claude now I can probably do that in 2 weeks, right? Or maybe 4 weeks, whatever the timeline is. So this is like how Claude is helping us. So let me just talk about the phase one. The planning and the setup phase is this is where like the experiment design needs to happen. And this first stage is hypothesis generation. And there are two approaches that we use in our system. So there's this proactive approach, and then there's this reactive approach of generating hypothesis. In the proactive approach, we look at the funnels, we look at session replays, we do a UI UX audit, we have some customer feedback flowing in, we have some business KPIs that we need to optimize for, and we generate hypotheses using all of this. Mostly this is inside Amplitude, and we have our skills ready inside Claude. We have Claude connected to Amplitude, and we trigger it. We say, okay, let's just start generating hypotheses based on this funnel. Based on this replay that I saw, I was seeing some rage clicks. This is the UI UX audit that I saw. This button is not responsive, whatever it is. Go back to Amplitude, look at session replays, look at the customer feedback, and help us sort of generate these hypotheses. So this is a proactive approach that we use. It normally happens at the start of the program that we have. And then we have the skills ready because the skills are essentially the unique selling point of this system. And like we have built all of these workflows based on a lot of feedback over the last 1 year, coming from different experiments that we are doing. And the second approach is the reactive approach. So whenever we have an experiment result coming in, this automatically feeds back to hypothesis generation. So whenever a result is populated based on what we are seeing in terms of the lift, in terms of the primary metrics, secondary metrics, goes again back to the session replays that are there in Amplitude or maybe in StatSig or any other tool that you're using, the customer feedback that came in from on that particular time period. And then we use the LLM to help us generate that particular hypothesis. And automatically, it sort of adds that particular hypothesis in the Airtable. And in the first stage of the phase one, we generate hypotheses. We call this workflow 2. Just to remember, we have a workflow called W2 that comes here, which helps us do that. The second stage in this particular phase is going to be the scoring stage. So let's say if I have a lot of hypotheses inside Airtable. Now we need to score that hypothesis so that we can pick like top five hypotheses or top three hypotheses, because we cannot work on like all the hypotheses at a single point in time, right? Because a lot of the companies might not have the right traffic for it. A lot of the companies might not have the right development capacity or the capability for it. It might be like too early for them to test out certain hypotheses. So we need to score that hypothesis. Currently, like for simplicity, I'm like talking about ICE a lot. A lot of people might like ICE, a lot of people might not like ICE. You can use PXL. But in the context of this system, your prioritization framework, whatever you're using, it does not matter, because you teach Claude that particular skill and then you have that skill ready. And you can then use that particular skill and that prioritization framework to prioritize your hypothesis. Like it does not matter. What I've seen in a lot of other places where people are doing this, uh, 90% of the times, different scoring mechanism, they're going to have the same sort of results. So scoring is like very, very tricky in this particular case. In our workflows, we call it the workflow one, the prioritizer. This is where um, I ask the clients or the POC that we have from the client side to score their hypotheses based on their own scoring framework, right? Normally, let's say if it's ICE, they'll have their own impact, then they are going to have their own confidence, and then they're going to have their own ease. I let it happen before I use any AI to score that particular hypothesis because I don't want to create a bias. Initially, when I was experimenting with this, I saw that whenever I had the plot score in, it would automatically create a bias, and the client would start scoring it like compared to what like Claude is saying. So now I just like do it in a way where I would ask the client to score that particular hypothesis based on what they perceive the impact to be, based on what their confidence is, and based on like their ease. And then I use Claude to score it, and then I have a difference columns inside the A table as well. This is where I'll see, okay, like where the difference is at, right? Is it based on impact? Is it based on confidence? Is it based on ease? And then I have the next action items based on that. And then we'll talk about that in detail going forward. Now we are still in the first phase, the planning and the setup phase. No experiment is run as of now, and then we move on to stage three. This is where the score is in, and now we need to prioritize the hypothesis based on the scores. Now we have a difference of scores as well, and this is where the workflow 4 comes in. Of course, like we are a remote team and our clients are remote as we have like participants in this call from like all over the world. So we have these remote meetings and we have always our note taker inside. So I have these like weekly cadences with the client, and then those cadences are structured. One of the agendas that we discuss is like any hypothesis that we need to score or any hypothesis that we need to rescore. We have the difference inside our Airtable. And then I talk to the client, "Oh, okay, you wrote the impact as like 7 or whatever it is, confidence as 2, but ease as 5. Now we have this particular difference. How would you want to prioritize this? Do you want to lock it? Do you think this could be parked? Do you want to select this? Do you want to keep it running? What do you want to do?" So this is where like the note taker takes a lot of nuances that are not there anywhere else. For instance, like let me give you an example. We were scoring these hypotheses for a particular client, and then they had scored something really low based on the customer reviews, and then they did not want to like show their Trustpilot reviews on their landing page. It was like very odd for us as well, and also like for the AI scorer as well, because it uses its own LLM that I have trained or the skill that I have like put in or like put it inside Claude. And then in the note taker, we figured out that for them, for the UK clients, their Trustpilot reviews they do not work because previously they have done multiple tests on it. Those tests are not documented, but now the note taker sort of picks that particular nuance, and the note taker records that and puts it sort of inside the note taker database. Whenever the new iterations are running, it picks up from this. So this is where like we scored the hypothesis in the A table. Everything is aligned. This particular workflow 4, it adds the meeting to that particular prioritization. So that we know when did we prioritize this particular hypothesis, because a lot of the times we have multiple stakeholders. It streamlines the prioritization as well, and we know when was it prioritized. A lot of the times I've prioritized hypotheses using Slack as well. And these workflows, the workflow 4, it also looks at my Slack messages as well inside my client channels. So it knows, okay, I was talking to John, and then John said, we have this new business goal. We need to prioritize this particular hypothesis. Although the score is a bit low, but now the business needs it, so we prioritize it a bit higher. So it like adds all the context to that particular database that we can always trigger whenever we would want to. So this is where like we have the hypothesis now prioritized. We now have the experiments in as well. This is where we also use, or we are also trying a workflow with Claude's code and also like Claude design as well, where based on like previous designs, your design system, Claude can design the new experience using just like Airtable sort of columns. We have ran into like some of the problems with it. The biggest one would be in some of the cases the designers are really good, but in a lot of cases they are not, and it also like consumes a lot of tokens for us as well. So we have our UI UX person in, so I think it's very easy for us as of now to use like Figma quickly based on Airtable and do that. But this is why like I would say that workflow 5 would be optional. It totally depends on your design system, how complicated it is, depends on your product, it depends if you have a website, a simple landing page, or a very complicated one, and then the results could be based on like what you have. When we have the experiment up and running, we then move on to the next phase. Between these two phases, we set up the experiment. And normally, we use Amplitude and Amplitude Web Experimentation. So we have the experiment up and running. This is where our second phase starts. So it has two stages: the evaluation of results and the population of results as well. This is where our workflow 3 comes in. So whenever we have the experiment completed, so normally we like peek at the results as well because we have sequential enabled. It pulls the data from Amplitude, it populates the results inside Airtable, and then it also populates the results inside the experiment results table as well. So it looks at what won, why did it win, what was the rationale, what was the revenue impact, and then it drafts a decision based on it as well. um if you want to ship it, if you want to kill it, this is where like you don't need to like do a lot of upstream analysis, a lot of downstream analysis. we make this workflow as part of a skill which is very custom to the clients. So we know like what metrics matter for them, and all of those act as an input for this particular workflow. This is where like now the Airtable is like fully populated, and our workflow three then also helps us with our phase three. And for the phase three, the first stage is like documentation of the learnings. This is where like I'll showcase that the results DB inside Airtable. You're going to see a lot of like long text coming in where this workflow is adding the learning so that we know what worked, what did not work. And the last stage in phase three, the second stage, where we use workflow two, which we initially talked about, the reactive approach, which picks up the documentation from the results section, from the results DB, and it populates new hypotheses in the Airtable. So this is where you'll see this working perpetually, and everything is compounding. The workflows are working. A lot of like, of course, manual intervention is there, but now the system is much more efficient, and the system is now uh, uh, at least becoming AI first, and have a lot of hypotheses coming in. Then I have like different triggers for it as well, which we're going to talk about like in much more detail, because I'm going to like showcase all of these workflows one by one with the Airtable that we have, and then we can see like how can we trigger that. The triggers, they depend totally on the setup that you have. For instance, there are a lot of triggers that I have for workflow two, which happen like automatically. So every Monday, a trigger happens, right? It generates the hypothesis based on what's it seeing inside amplitude. But the prioritizer could be continuous. This is where whenever I have a weekly meeting with our clients, I'll use this manually, and I'll trigger it manually. Meeting sync also is like very similar. Whenever a meeting happens, after the meeting, 3 hours from after the meeting, the transcripts are in, everything is in, and this workflow particularly runs. Variant design is something that we use on need basis, and we don't like essentially do it for all the clients. The result evaluator happens whenever a new result is populated. It can be automatic, it can be manual as well. It totally depends. I sometimes use it manually, but sometimes it's like automatically triggered as well. Whenever it sees statistically significant results inside amplitude, it gets automatically triggered. The reactive one is populated, so automatically whenever you have a result populated inside a table, and then that result is finalized, it automatically starts generating hypothesis based on this particular workflow. Yeah. So moving on, yeah, I just like wanted to quickly talk about how would each workflow look like, but I think we have sort of touched this in detail. Let me move on to the prioritizer. But before this, in the interest of time, let me go to the hypothesis generator. As I was like talking about it, we had two arms, the reactive arm and the proactive arm. For the reactive arm, it would feed back into Airtable, coming in from the results that it is seeing. And the proactive one is where we would be using session replays, amplitude analytics, or any other analytics that are coming in to generate hypotheses, customer feedback. Amplitude has a very, very good way of collecting customer feedback. You can like add multiple sources to it, and then the AI reads that. Business goals, of course, like if you have implemented amplitude for a particular client, we have that as part of a like standard document with us. It goes into this particular scale, and then we can see hypotheses coming from it as well. We also do a lot of UI UX audits as well, and this is where we would probably use session replays to sort of solidify that particular hypothesis, and then use that to populate this particular Airtable. So what it writes inside Airtable, we are going to see that. So let me just quickly showcase Airtable to you guys. So the Airtable has 4 DBs mainly, again, linking to the workflows that we have. The first one is the hypothesis bank, right? So the skill knows which column to populate. I think I'm lagging a little bit, but let me just switch off my video. Yeah. So this is the hypothesis bank. You'll see the hypothesis title coming in. You also see the hypothesis coming in as well. So we use a standard structure for hypothesis. For instance, we believe that adding security trust badges, whatever it is, next to the pay button for all checkout users will cause payment success rate to increase. Because we saw some session replays and then they show hesitation, that there's a big drop off in the payment form. And some of the reviews are also mentioning security concerns. This could be submitted by the client, it could be submitted by Claude, but the source is coming from the UI UX audit. Then we have the evidence link as well. The page and the funnel steps are also coming in. The device that it needs to target, or this is or where this hypothesis was found, is also added here. Primary metrics are also populated. This is like directional lift that is going to bring in. Gartner metrics are also populated in. The source is coming from amplitude. So that's why like it's like looking at this directional uplift as well. Amplitude does a very good job in predicting this. Or when we connect amplitude with Claude, I think then this is where like it becomes very sort of accurate. So you'll see like multiple sources are coming in: UI UX audit, session replays and heat maps, analytics overview, business goals, UI UX audits, Claude and AI. This is where like reactive hypotheses are also coming in. Let me just quickly showcase something. Uh, Let me open that. Okay. Yeah. So the hypothesis title is like trust signals on registration step. We believe that adding the same security trusting to the registration step for new user will cause registration completion rate to increase because the experiment one showed payment anxiety drives drop off, and registration is the same trust decision one step earlier. So now it's generating more hypotheses based on the results that we saw. We saw another hypothesis earlier that was coming in from UI UX audit, and now the hypothesis generating is using the reactive approach to submit this particular sort of hypothesis. And then it's also adding the evidence link as well. It also does a very good job in identifying the page or the funnel step. Also, like helps us generate the primary metrics, secondary metrics, cardinal metrics, the directional lift as well, and the metric source as well. So currently it's not scored, that's why you don't see anything here. But this is the first workflow that comes in. So we then have a lot of hypotheses inside the hypothesis bank. I like currently used mock data to do that, but for the client this would like make more sense. Let's say this would be for the demo environment, or as we call it, like a product where the product is called like Gotham or something like that, which is where the hypothesis is being generated. So this is like the workflow two. Again, a quick reminder: where does this happen in terms of the phases or in the stages? So it happens in the planning and setup phase. Workflow two, the trigger is manual, and for the reactive one, it's automatic. You can also have it manual as well, whatever configuration that you would like. It sort of like generates hypothesis based on that. Now let's just move on to workflow one, the prioritizer. The trigger is like normally for me whenever I'm having a meeting with the client, a weekly cadence. Any hypothesis that is not prioritized, I'll use the meetings to prioritize that particular hypothesis. And I'll ask the client to prioritize or like score that particular hypothesis. And once that is done, again, very important in our system, we ask the client to score the hypothesis first, and then I use Claude to generate the hypothesis. Um, a lot of sort of learnings went into in order to make this particular rubric to prioritize the hypothesis using the ICE framework. That's why we use the ICE framework. And this is where a combination of the data that we're seeing in amplitude comes in. It's combined with the LLM's own, I would say, like LLM brain to prioritize that particular hypothesis or score that hypothesis. It also looks at how much time it took us to set up a particular experiment in the past, which is like similar to it, and then it scores the ease. So for the impact, it looks at the reach. There are different like buckets that I've done for the reach. For instance, if it's reaching to top 10% of the users, then I would like probably bucket it higher than expected lift. If it's higher, if it's multiplied by the reach, then the result is a bit higher. Then it also looks at the metric tier. For instance, if the primary metric is related to a business goal, for instance, it's like conversion rate, where the revenue is coming in, it will rate it higher, or impact would be a bit higher. And then it sort of like benchmarks it with the rest of the hypothesis as well, and then it like showcases the impact. The confidence also is like much more nuanced, and it looks at like the upstream analytics as well, downstream analytics as well. It looks at 30 days of data inside amplitude to see how does that like funnel look like, and what would the confidence be based on the evidence quality. For instance, if the evidence is coming from UI UX audit, then I think it's very subjective. If it's coming from session replays, then I think it would be much more accurate. If it's coming from analytics and also coming from customer reviews, then it would be rated much higher. Again, it depends on the client. We do this study before we set this up for the client. We change these scales, and then it of course like is built on that. Ease is also like very much relevant to the change that we are proposing. If it's like simple copy changes, the ease would be scored much higher. If it's not very complicated, then it becomes higher. But it's like if it's simple, but it has taken a lot of time for us in the past, it would be scored lower. And like yeah, the skill knows how we can do that. So let's see what it writes on the Airtable. This particular workflow, as we call it, workflow one. So this is where I would ask my client to score this. So impact would be 7, confidence would be 7, ease would be 9, and the client also fills in the rationale. So AI does not read the rationale. The client adds the rationale. We use this rationale in other workflows, but not on this one. The AI also like adds its own impact. Impact is 7, confidence is 6, ease is 9. I think we have a difference between confidence, not a lot of difference, and then it automatically adds the AI rationale as well. This is where it comes in and it says like 45,000 monthly users on payment step, reach is very high, lift is benchmarked, capped at 2 percentile points incremental UI, tier 1 metric, because of course it looks at payment step. Evidence from replace is direct, but sample is small, right? That's why it will like have a lower confidence in this particular case. Again, this rubric is very complicated. It acts as a unique selling point for us. And then it also adds the score date. The scoring status is only finalized whenever we have the meeting where we have sort of prioritized this particular sort of hypothesis. So we sit in the meeting, and then in that particular meeting, we have the client score, we have the AI score. Now, there's a big difference between like if you look at the second hypothesis, then we have the delta coming from the confidence, ease delta, and like everything is automated in this particular Airtable. We see alignment, mostly aligned. This means minor gap. This is where we discuss in the meeting. The workflow 3 is running, where the meeting note taker is being recorded. And then manually, we can update the status here. Okay, now this particular hypothesis is selected for experimentation or it's prioritized. Whenever a hypothesis is either selected or running, then we will have experiments in the experiment DB as well. So you'll also see the locked meeting as well. So whenever we have a hypothesis locked, we have the next workflow running. Let me just quickly go to the workflow for the meeting sync, and then it adds the meeting here. And if we go to that particular meeting, this table then knows. Ah, okay, now this is stuck. But anyways, the meeting table knows which meeting it was prioritized, what was discussed, what were the notes from that particular meeting, and what was the decision that was made, what was the follow-up actions, and what was the hypothesis that we were talking about. So this is where we have everything documented. Based on this, we have the experiment now planned. This is manual because, of course, like this is something where we have a code for the experiment, and then we have the designer sort of assigned. We have the variants in as well in the form of Figma designs, the test type as well, the targeting. I normally like use AI to populate this. This is where the workflow 5 comes in, but it's optional as of now. You can sort of populate this manually as well, but just like sort of have the design ready based on what you're seeing in the uh, data that is coming inside Amplitude, but like leave the rest of it for the automation to like run and for the workflow to run so that you can have it. So it's also like linked to the hypothesis, and we also have the results in. How do we have the results in? So this is where the next workflow is going to come in, which would be the results evaluator. This is a trigger where, let's say, if I sort of update the status from live to complete, then this particular workflow will run. It will pull the data from Amplitude, upstream analytics, downstream analytics, and it populates two things. Number one, it populates the results section. Let me go to the results section. It looks at the lift, it looks at what moved, what did not move, why did it move, and then it also adds the documentation as we talked about, so that it can feed back to the loop where we have further hypotheses coming in as well. So this is where like the results evaluator comes in. It computes the lift. It now knows in the MCP, like there's a lot of raw data coming in as well. So you get p-values as well, statistical significance as well, segment level effects. Your guardrail checks are coming in. Something is breaking. It also like sort of flags that one as well. It drafts a decision whether you need to ship it, iterate it, kill it, retest it, and it also writes the key learnings which are used to generate further hypothesis. And I just like quickly, if I can showcase, that's like Airtable is not responding, but anyways, like you would see if we give it a second, yeah, it links back to the experiment that we saw in the experiment table. The result table is now populated. The key learnings are coming in. And based on this, we have our workflow 2 running again. Let me quickly showcase the workflow 2 back again. The hypothesis generator. This is where the reactive arm is going to come in, and it's going to generate further hypothesis inside the Airtable that we showcased in the hypothesis bank. So this was a quick overview of the four sort of workflows that we use. The fifth workflow is the variant design ones. In some of the cases, what we have seen is that it works really well. We have the design systems inside Figma. We use Claude Design to generate smaller iterations of the Figma designs. It generates hypothesis. From the hypothesis, it generates experiments. It populates the experiment table, adds the Figma links, and then it hands it over to the dev as well. I also tested using Claude Code to sort of have the designs ready in the code base as well, using some other integrations as well, for instance, with other like automated AI coding tools. And it worked well, but in a lot of cases it does not, because like sometimes we don't have access to the code base. A lot of times, if there is cursor, that we can do that. But yeah, this is something that is optional as of now. If you think that your tech stack is simpler, it would not impact things when like you roll out the change, then you can do that. Otherwise, I would strongly suggest that you keep it optional. And then if the AI becomes much more advanced and we can trust it more in the future, then of course, like this becomes another workflow that we can use regularly, or becomes an integral part of this system. So quickly on the prereqs, you need to have trustworthy analytics. This is where Amplitude comes in for us. And we use a static, we should Amplitude. We have very clean taxonomies. We have the tracking plans implemented. We have the funnels already mapped. We have the data use cases. We have the KPIs that we work closely with the clients to sort of decide. And then based on this, we have trustworthy analytics that we can then use to build on top of using AI. So Claude is connected to the MCP inside Amplitude, and then we have everything running there. Then you need to have a structured experiment database. As I showcased, Airtable works wonders in this. But a Google Sheet could also work as simply. but it might be very glitchy. And again, like Airtable is like much better in that particular regard. Um, you also need a tool to run your tests or your experiments. So we use Amplitude Web Experimentation in a lot of cases, but in some cases we use feature experimentation as well. In some cases we use Shopify native tools as well. But like our biggest use case is Amplitude Web Experimentation because Amplitude connects really well with Claude, and we have everything running inside Claude. Um, which takes me to Claude. Claude should be connected to your stack. You need to have these workflows as skills inside Claude, and then you can trigger these skills as you go, or you can have Claude running. You can have schedules inside Claude, in Claude Cowork. You can have Slack connected to it, and you can have like a lot of things connected to it. I have Notion connected as well. I have ClickUp connected as well. So tickets are automatically being created inside ClickUp for my client, for their devs. They're being created for our internal team, for myself, for Finn, for our rest of our team members. Then you need these rubrics as well. So whatever skills that I showcased, there are rubrics inside them, which are based on learnings. There are different parameters that can be configured. So the skills have parameters, which we can tone up, tone down. So you need to have that. You need to have those skills. You need to have those prompts that you can then implement inside your Claude, which would then eventually become these workflows. Um, the sixth point is, I think, the most important one. In no way, in this particular system that we run, there are no human checkpoints. We are always looking at the results. We're looking at always at the hypothesis, and I can like tell you that, so a lot of confidence that yeah still hallucinates. You will see a lot of the times hypotheses are being generated, they're not relevant, the results are not interpreted well. But what you need to do is that have a checkpoint ready before you trigger this workflow. Make sure that you have the skill updated. You are adding more context to the skills, so that it's very relevant and contextualized to your product or to your context, and to your use cases as well. So very, very important. Always have human checkpoints. This is where we, as a team at Adasight, we have like multiple people looking at all of these things inside these workflows, inside these systems. And I think this brings me to the end of this. So I think we are open to any questions. We have 8 minutes left, but we can take some extra time too. Feel free to ask your questions. I can answer them, and if there are none, then we can also answer them async as well. But yeah, I would love to take the questions.
Um, I've got a question if you don't mind. Sorry.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips about like writing the skill for the prioritization kind of step?
Yeah, so I think what I did was I connected the skill to Amplitude first, and
Hmm.
I sort of let it learn on the impact. So it looked at like different sort of metrics, different steps in the funnels, different funnels. It looked at like how many users are coming into those funnels, what would impact look like, and then it sort of like trains itself on those funnels. And
Hmm.
then I would like argue with it a lot, right? For instance, like I'll sort of have these mock I would say scorings running with these skills. So I would say, can you sort of score this hypothesis for me? And then let's say it'll score the impact as 5, but I feel like the impact would be 8. Then I would like probably argue with it and then add that particular nuance to that particular skill. So skills are always updated because, of course, like they're in the form of text. So you always need to have something added to that particular skill that is based on what you see inside your analytics. Um, Normally, whenever you ask Claude what ICE is, Claude knows. But how do you sort of score impact? How do you sort of score confidence? And how do you sort of score ease? Then that becomes very nuanced. In our case, we have clients. So I have a client. where they have a lot of dev capacity and then they have very simple web pages.
Mm.
So I would train the skill in a way it will always see if it's a simple copy change, it'll like always rate it higher in terms of ease. And then we can like sort of correlate it back to what the client has scored. For confidence, again, goes back to so what I do is that I ask the LLM to use its own judgment to score it based on confidence, and then I like argue with it again, right? So why would you like rate it at like 7? And then it says that I looked at the last 30-day data and I am seeing that it's constantly dropping. I also see some session replays. And I can see this friction points. I'm very, very confident this solves a bigger problem. So I'll say, okay, then great, make it part of the skill as well. This is how a big problem is defined. This is how this funnel is defined. For the impact, very similar. You need to like argue with Claude and then update those skills too. So that would be, I think, my tip for you. Um, a lot of the time, what I've seen is that like people would go and like simply prompt it. Okay, I need to like score this, and whatever it scores it, they like probably take it. But you need to
Mm.
ask it, how did you score it? What sort of rubrics did you use? And then always read that particular skill as well. Download it, either if you have it on GitHub or wherever it's like lying, or on your machine as well. So always see like how is it prioritizing stuff, how is it measuring stuff, does it even have access to amplitude or not? Very funny. I was doing this for a client, and Claude did not have access to the amplitude analytics, and it was
Mm.
like sort of trying to create the hypothesis based on what it felt like, right? But again, it was like talking to me inside the UI, but like essentially it did not have access to Amplitude's MCP. So yeah, that can happen. So again, a lot of human intervention, a lot of arguments, so it knows where you are coming from, but also leave some way where the LLM sort of use its own LLM brain to sort of rank those.
Yeah. Nice, thank you.
Okay. You, do you
Uh,
have a question?
yes. Well, thanks for the great presentation, firstly. My question kind of similar to what we asked, but I'm curious on how did you find the quality of the hypothesis generated by the code? Uh, and like what's the process of say like if you're not satisfied with the hypothesis generated, like how did you like iterate on this improving hypothesis?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think a great question. So the hypothesis quality, it like varies a lot, right? For instance, it depends on where the hypothesis is coming from. Again, in our case, the quality was super high. 90% of the times what we have seen as the hypothesis is like very relevant. And we have two ways to sort of check that. Number one, since we have Amplitude implemented with our clients in like almost all the cases, so the quality of data that is coming in is super, super high. Amplitude and Claude together, it can look at a lot of session replays in a very short period of time, and then look at friction points, look at rage clicks, look at dead clicks as well, whatever it is, right? And then it generates hypothesis based on that. It also couples it with the product analytics that are coming in, events that are firing, and it can also see the session replay and which part of the funnel the session replay is coming from and where the drop off is, and then it can also like look at the session replay and see why would the user drop off, right? Maybe they could not enter their phone number, maybe the event firing was like a lot of the times, and then it could interpret it as rage clicks. So in our case, since we have a very high quality of data coming in, so the quality of hypothesis was really, really good. And the second way to sort of identify that is that in a lot of cases we have a hypothesis bank coming from like the client as well, and then whenever we have the hypothesis generated, I run a Claude skill where I sort of have an overlap with the hypothesis that we are seeing versus the hypothesis that the clients had in terms of like their hypothesis bank, right? Which is like their backlog or maybe something that they wanted to test. So in like one of the clients I saw an 80% overlap. In one I saw like a 40% of the overlap, because the data was like probably very outdated. So this is how like we would sort of judge the quality of the hypothesis that are coming in. But essentially, what happens is that I, along with my UI UX audit person, we sit together and then we sort of quickly look at the hypothesis as well. And then we try to correlate it like with the analytics as well, because it has now links to the amplitude charts, amplitude funnels, amplitude session replays, and then we see whether this hypothesis is like totally absurd or something that we can test. Then we also have the scores as well. So if the hypothesis quality is really bad, the AI might score it higher, but the client is going to score it lower because, like, of course, there is like human manual scoring happening as well. So I would say in this particular case, the system is foolproof, and you won't have like any hypothesis prioritized because you're doing the prioritization manually as well in one of the cases, and then you're also looking at the difference as well. So if there's a low quality hypothesis or a bad hypothesis, again, I think no hypothesis is bad. It's just like whether hypothesis is good enough to test or not, based on like the outcomes that it can present. Um, Claude already knows the impact needs to be higher, the confidence needs to be higher. So this is where like it will correlate it back to what the client has scored. And if there is a huge difference, I'll always deprioritize that. And then unless the client sees that particular hypothesis and then says, "Oh, we might have made a mistake. The impact could be really high here," and then we can then sort of prioritize it. So this is why like prioritization framework is very essential and comes in very handy to help us prioritize, even if it's a low quality hypothesis.
Okay. Yeah, understood. Thank you. Very clear.
Okay, then thank you for everyone for joining, and I'll end the meeting here and stop the recording. We will send this to you after. Thank you, everybody. Recording. We will send this to you after. Thank you, everybody.